Namaste, it's Sahara Rose, and welcome back to the Highest Self podcast, a place where we discuss what makes you your soul's highest evolvement. You know, I love sharing stories of people who've become their highest selves, and I'm so excited to share this one with you. So Brett Larkin is an incredible yoga teacher that you might recognize from YouTube. She has over 100,000 followers for her amazing YouTube videos. She's also the host of the Savannah Spirit podcast and just such an amazing light. In fact, about 2 years ago, she was the first podcaster to ever interview me. So it was really amazing for me to have my own podcast and interview her. When I actually had the idea of making a podcast, she was the first person that I texted, like, wait, how do you do this thing? She's like, you'll figure it out. So I'm really excited to share with you this week's interview. And I want to just give you guys a heads up that there is a major discount given for her online teacher training. Yes, an online teacher training for yoga exists. You can become a certified yoga teacher, teach in studios all around the world. And what makes her teacher training really unique is she specifies it for people who also want to teach online. So she shows you how to make like YouTube videos and like grow your following and connect with people online in the yoga world. And she has weekly live calls and all of these things. I asked her all the questions about it because I was like, wait, how does this work? And she generously has offered $100 off on the deposit for all Highest Self podcast listeners. So all you have to do to get that is just click the link in the show notes. You'll see it right on my website. If you go on highestselfpodcast.com, if you go on iamsahararose.com and click on the podcast section, you will find it. The link is going to be, if you're listening to this on iTunes or SoundCloud, the link's going to be right there. So click on that link, type in Sahara, and you'll get $100 off your deposit. And as a special discount, because I just so love this training and so love her, I'm also giving my Eat Right for Your Mind Body Type program free. So if you want all of this, my free program, $100 off for training. And first of all, you have to learn, what is this? What are we even talking about? Listen to this episode. It's truly inspiring because yoga is something that, you know, we always think you have to be in person for, but really when you create your business online, you're able to reach so many people. And the thing is, so many people live in states or in areas where there's no great yoga studio around and people are at home, people have different work hours, and it makes it so much easier to be able to fulfill your teacher training requirements online. So that's why I'm really excited to share this episode with you. So without further ado, enjoy Brett Larkin, and I'll see you guys on the other side. Namaste. Welcome, Brett. I am so excited to have you here on the Highest Self podcast.
I'm super excited to be here.
And the first question that I want to ask you is, what makes you your highest self?
So that question is easy. Yoga, right? Yoga and meditation and a consistent practice. So 3 things: yoga, meditation, and then I'd say the third thing's community, right? That's what makes you your highest self. I think a lot of us think we need to be able to kind of rock this whole transformation thing alone. And let me tell you, I've tried that, and it's really a lot more effective when you have friends and cheerleaders and community supporting you along the way.
Absolutely. And you have truly created a massive community all based around yoga. And I would love to, I've watched so many of your videos and I listened to your podcast. You are now doing the Savannah Spirit podcast, which is an incredible one. But I'd love to know how you started your personal journey.
Oh, man. Well, I was someone who experienced a lot of anxiety. I'm hoping some of your listeners can relate to this, but
oh, yes.
When I was younger, I lived with so much fear of the future, so much constant anxiety. I actually tell people, like, I don't remember how I was functioning in the world before my yoga practice. I feel so bad for anyone who had to interact with me because I can't even imagine how not present and scattered and desensitized and just fearful and therefore anxious I was about everything. So for me, meditation and yoga was sort of the first place that I was able to suddenly drop into the present moment and have this cognition that I was not my thoughts, and that this constant spin of worry and fear and projecting into the future, usually negatively, wasn't who I am, that it was just this narrative in my head. And I mean, I could talk about that journey for an hour, which I know we have a lot of stuff we want to talk about, so I won't, but it was the process of starting yoga. And I started with Bikram, like many type A folks out there. You know, I had to do like the sweatiest, the hardest thing possible. So Bikram was sort of my gateway drug, I like to say, into then exploring all different styles of yoga and exploring all different kinds of meditation. And then that ultimately led me to doing a yoga teacher training once I found the style and the school of yoga that really resonated with me. And yoga teacher training is so transformational. It also really sort of took me from like 50% to 100 in terms of my own self-development and figuring out what I really wanted in life. And I was in denial about the fact that I wanted to teach, complete denial. I was like, oh, I'm just doing it to deepen my practice. And so many people come to yoga teacher training to deepen their practice, and it's a great reason to do it. I was one of those people. I had no intention of teaching, which is so funny now looking back. And it actually took me, I think, another 4 years after completing yoga teacher training to actually gather the courage, the guts to teach other people. And in fact, I was too much of a coward to even do that. I was so scared to teach someone else in person. I was teaching my friends and my family and things like that, but I was really scared to go to a studio and try to teach because I didn't feel like yogic or experienced or cool enough to do something like that. So I recorded a video and put it on YouTube because I'm very like techie and nerdy, and I love video equipment and I love filmmaking. And I have a dance background, so I was used to kind of filming choreography. I had a sequence that I really liked and I wanted to remember it. So I just filmed this little video, and that started everything, right? So that was now maybe 6 years, 7, many, many years ago. And and now the YouTube channel's my full-time job, and I'm so happy.
Wow. That's so inspirational, because it was your fear of not wanting to teach at the yoga studio that made you put up that video. And it was like, in a way, the universe like almost gave you that fear of the audition so you would go into this route, because I've honestly never seen like online yoga teacher trainings and the things that you've created. It's truly revolutionary.
Yeah. And I like to preface that story with that I then did go on to teach in person, and I taught in person everywhere. I mean, once you gather that confidence, I really pushed myself. So I taught at every studio in San Francisco. I taught at the top really hot studio in San Francisco that I thought would never hire me because I wasn't cool enough. I taught at Google. I taught at Equinox. I taught at Pinterest, like really every place that I had sort of set my sights on. But the online business and the online community just grew so big that, especially now, that's where pretty much all my attention is. So it sort of came full circle to like getting that confidence to teach in person. And of course, I've led retreats all over the world, and it's been so amazing. But now I'm focused on online because I think it's a space that really people are craving the kind of information that you can get in some of these in-person trainings. And I really want everyone to have access to that online, like whether they're a mom or they're in the military or they live in the middle of nowhere. There's a thirst for this knowledge, I think.
Totally. I'm 100% with you. I also focus my attention online because you're able to hit a demographic of people who might live in a state where, you know, there's no great yoga studio nearby. There's no Ayurvedic practitioner. And I think online, it allows us to create something global. I mean, even if we both live in San Francisco or Los Angeles, there's so much traffic and things that get in the way, and like having it available on your computer is just such a blessing.
And I think people really need to remember, if this is helpful for folks listening too, like what's unique about you and what you love. Like Sahara, I know you're such an amazing writer, and I love all your books. And the writing and writing online, I know, was really amazing for you in launching everything you're doing. Mm-hmm. And for me, I've always loved filmmaking. It's always been a huge part of, like when I was 8, I used to make at-home movies with troll dolls. Remember those troll dolls with the
Yes.
hair that sticks straight up? Yeah, like
yes,
hundreds of movies.
Absolutely.
And I would edit for fun. And so I think I always thought like, oh, well, I'm too techie or I'm too nerdy to be a yoga person. And if you're listening, I'd really encourage you to think about like the parts of your personality that seem in opposition or seem opposing, and realize that that's your strength. That's what's unique about you. Because I talk to so many teachers who teach locally and they're like, oh, I should do stuff online. And I'm like, well, do you naturally love online stuff? I mean, do you naturally love filmmaking? Because we can all push ourselves, but you really need to pursue what sets your heart on fire. And I'm like, what you're doing, teaching like 5 classes a day in person, I could never do that, right? Like I so admire them. So I think we really just have to embrace our uniqueness and sort of just cobble together our strengths. And that's where you're going to find your community, find your tribe.
Mm. So can you tell us a little bit about what was that process like growing your YouTube community to have over 120,000 subscribers? How did that happen?
Consistency. So I think people a lot of the time want to know the secret to, whether it's how to build a business or how to build an online business or how to build a yoga business. For me, it was all about consistency. I started putting videos out, and I'm sure it was similar for you with your blog posts or whatever, right? You start putting content out there, and I thought, okay, maybe this is something I should try to do regularly. So that was really the first step, is that regular posting. So I went from just posting videos here and there when I felt like it to every Monday. And that every Monday is something now that hasn't changed for years. I mean, it does. My honeymoon, my wedding, like the videos still went out. Like
that's amazing.
So, and I'm giving birth soon. Like the videos are still going to go out. So it was really like making that consistency a priority. So whatever folks are doing, whether they're doing Instagram or they're teaching local classes or, it takes time. These things don't happen overnight. And then the other big thing was, and again, I feel like everyone already wants to hit me, but this community. So what happened was my channel got big enough that YouTube invited me to what's called a YouTube Creator Day, where they kind of invite some of their VIP channels to all come meet and hang out with each other. And I was one of the smallest channels at this event. I was almost like ashamed. I think I had, like 10,000 or 15,000 subscribers at the time. I was minuscule. But at this event that I went to, I met hundreds and hundreds of people who, some were, my size, but a lot of them were huge, like 100,000 subscribers, 200,000. And they were all making a full-time living on YouTube. And they were from all different niches. I mean, woodworking tutorials to beauty and makeup, and of course, all the gamer people. And it was so eye-opening because you don't know what you don't know, right? So after coming back from that event, all of a sudden, there was like a pathway there, I thought, wow, there's an opportunity for me. And I'll never forget, there was one man and one woman in particular, both huge successful YouTubers who I've tried to sort of stay in touch with at that event, who were really kind and talked to me. They gave me really great advice. And I just followed what they said to a T. And a lot of it was about consistency and about branding and, basic stuff, but just knowing that there were people out there, so many people out there making a living, doing what they loved, creating content and putting it on YouTube, just made it tangible, made it real for me. It was like I could reach out and touch it. And that's why getting connected with people who have what it is you want or who share your values or your interests is so, so powerful. Because I think even if I had maybe like read that people made a living on YouTube, I'd be like, yeah, but okay. But when you're in a room with like 300 of them, it's so real. And so that's how the channel grew. And it grew organically. I've never done any paid advertising for anything related to my business at all. I'm just trying to figure out Facebook ads right now. It's rough. So that's the other thing. It's like, if you just keep being authentic and putting your stuff out there and are consistent, it will take a really long time, but the right folks will find you and everything will work out.
That's so amazing. And I think you saying that is going to be for a lot of people that permission that they needed of, yes, my dreams are possible. I can be a vlogger or an online makeup person or whatever it is, that modality is there because it's something that we in school, they're not like, oh, and you can take the career path of becoming a YouTuber. Like it's very new.
Yeah,
So,
or a nutritionist or a health coach, like I'm sure a lot of people in your community. Another thing I really want to share is that, no one makes that leap overnight. And
mhm.
in communicating with these other YouTubers I met, that was very clear. And I think people have this shame, because I had shame the whole time that I was working a full-time job and hustling all of this on the side. Right? You feel like you should be farther along. You feel like you should be doing it full time, or that you're failing because you're not. It's not true. It's just part of the process of getting where you need to go. And for those people that are teaching yoga on the side or are doing their health coaching business on the side, it's like not like going full time is the be all end all, right? There's pros and cons to everything. And we're so multifaceted. Like we all just want to be in this like perfect box where it's like, I'm an X, because we think life will be simple and understandable if we do
Mm,
that. But,
totally.
embrace all aspects of who you are, and don't put this pressure on yourself that your passion has to make $1 million right away, or that you can't, waitress, or like whatever it is. It's totally normal and part of the process. It's actually part of the current of manifestation in the chakra system. It's hard to manifest things. It takes time
Mhm.
to draw something from concept to reality. And I think we're so hard on ourselves about that.
Totally. And a lot of people suffer anxiety. Like you're not alone. I think it's the most common thing that I hear about. And how did you get the courage that you needed to sign up for the teacher training and then later on to actually go about teaching classes? Like were there any practices you did, affirmations? What did that look like for you?
It's a good question. For the training, I was nervous, but I knew I had to do it. And I was actually like a training drop. Saying I was a dropout is a little harsh, but I have a tendency to overcommit. Don't know if anyone can
Oh,
relate.
yes.
But when I signed up for the training, I was working a very demanding full-time job. I had a demanding relationship at the time. And the training, like most yoga teacher trainings, was every night and every weekend. And I mean, I'm sure there were some days off, but that's what it felt like.
Hmm.
And it was really hard on me. In fact, while it was this incredible transformational experience that I loved, it was also adding a lot of stress just because I had so much going on. So that was hard. And that's one of the things that I love about my online training, is that people can do it from the comfort of their home. They have access to the material forever, right? I would do anything to go back and get to take that training again, in
Hmm.
a relaxed state. But what ended up happening is I think 3/4 of the way through the training, I said, hey, I want to stay and take the exam with everyone, because I felt confident in the material. But I said, I'm going to need a little bit of extra time to graduate in terms of attending some of the weekends and lectures and modules. So I actually had to do an extension
Hmm.
and finish it up in the spring. And that was scary, but I mean, that's asking for what you need. And I was just so completely overwhelmed. Um, at that time, affirmations were still like a little woo woo
Hmm.
for me. I think it's like when someone falls in love with yoga, just like I'm sure for you and many people in your community, like when you fall in love with like the power of nutrition or health, it's like you just can't get enough information. So
Hmm.
for me, it wasn't even like I had to gather the courage to do the training. It was like, I need more of this information right now. Like whatever this yoga and meditation stuff is doing for me, calming me down, like opening my eyes to a new reality. Like I need more of this. Like I don't need it on like an intravenous drip. Like I need to like swallow it like Gatorade, like pour it over my body. Like I need more of this. So that was really my drive. And I think that's how people can kind of figure out if they just can't get enough yoga, you need to do yoga teacher training. Like regardless of whether you're wanting to teach or not, that's the next step, because it's a transformational experience.
That's so amazing. And what differences have you seen teaching yoga to people online versus teaching them in person?
Well, it's so hard because online you can't see your students. So
Mm-hmm.
one thing is that if you take class with me on YouTube, I'd say the negative comment I get the most, besides just, weird people being mean like they are on the internet sometimes about like clothes or body or weird things. The number one thing is some people say I talk too much during the classes.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because when you're teaching online, you're trying to give a lot of information because you just don't know who's taking class. When I'm teaching in person or teaching on retreats or doing privates like I used to, or doing body work on people, like it's so much easier because you can just tailor all your cues to what's in front of you.
Right.
But online, it's like you feel this very big responsibility to try to really give people as much information as possible. And then keep in mind with yoga, they're not necessarily, especially if they're doing the routine, looking at the screen the whole time, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's impossible to do yoga and watch your phone or your computer the whole time. So those auditory cues become very important. So that's a major, major difference. Trying to really label and describe the classes accurately is a huge challenge, right? So that the beginner people find the beginner stuff, and the people who are interested in Kundalini find the right level for them, and that kind of thing. But I really think that online is the future because, like you said, like traffic in LA, or, it's wonderful when you can make it to a 60 or 90-minute class in a studio. But for so many of us, myself included, our lives are just too full or too busy with work or children or taking care of family members that's just not a reality. And what ends up happening is that you develop a home practice and you develop a relationship with the screen. And I've had some of the most powerful moments studying with teachers through online videos. The component that's missing is the community, that community aspect that you get when you go to a studio, which honestly, some people don't even get when they go to the studios, because sometimes like studios aren't that friendly or the people aren't that friendly, right? So it's like, it's still kind of a toss up. But that's why I created Uplifted, which is like my private membership off of YouTube, because we're all just like giving each other feedback. We have themes we're constantly personal.
Hello. Hello.
Get it to that
Wait, wait,
next
wait,
level.
wait, Brett. For some reason that part that you when you just came on, it wasn't recording. It said the recording was paused. So can you just say that again?
Yeah,
Yeah.
no problem.
Yeah.
So start from the very beginning.
Yeah, of the whole community thing. Yeah.
Okay, it's all right. I'm telling you, it's technology. It's like,
I
it's going to
know.
be all day, all day.
Oh
I
God.
cannot wait to like abandon my computer in like 3 hours and just like hide under an object. Okay. Um, so it's really possible. And I know because I personally have had some of the most powerful classes through a screen, through practicing with a teacher I love online, to the point where the hairs on my arms are standing on end. I mean, it was just so magical. But the part that's missing with the convenience of online, right? Because we can just do a 10-minute class in the morning or a 10-minute class at night and fit it into our lives, is the feedback, getting feedback from a teacher, and that community aspect. And that's what the studio experience has that online doesn't. But again, has theoretically, right? Because I have lots of people tell me they go to studios and they don't feel like they get feedback from the teacher, they get a connection there, and they don't feel like maybe the studio's that friendly or they're making friends either. So that's where I've really tried to focus my attention. So in Uplifted, people upload photos and videos of themselves practicing, and I draw on them, and on live calls we all nerd out and talk about alignment and how they can modify and how they can improve. It's exactly the same way we do it in yoga teacher training. We're looking at bodies. People are getting direct personalized feedback from me and their peers and connecting. We do monthly themes and seasonal challenges around, the equinox and the solstice. And it's really trying to create that community vibe and that direct teacher connection that people who are purely practicing from home can get access to and experience. And even if you're going to a studio, because I know so many of our uplifted members go to studios, they still love it. And they say that the community and the vibe and the personal feedback they get in uplifted is better than they get in their local studio, right? So it really, again, I think online is missing that feedback and community. But if you want to dig around, whether it's through what I'm offering or so many people are offering cool things, like, you can find it. And if you really care about improving your life through yoga, you should.
That's so amazing. And I totally agree. I don't feel community vibes at any studio I go to because everyone's just in a rush. And the moment Shavasana is done, everyone's like running out and leaving, and people don't really stick around. So I feel like, online, there's less of those like barriers and time restraints, and people are so much more open.
I agree. And I know you run a lot of interactive programs too. And I think that's what people are really craving moving forward. I say this in my training. It's like we have more access to information than ever before. We don't really need more content, more information. What people I feel like are really craving, and I know I'm craving, is that accountability, that connection with a teacher, with like-minded people for motivation and support.
Absolutely. Yes. Having the exact same thing in a book versus having it in a course makes it just so much more effective. So I want to talk a little bit about, like, what does it look like to do an online yoga teacher training? Because I'm sure for a lot of people, they're like, wait, how does that even work? So can you walk us through what it's like to be a student of yours?
Yes. So if you're a student in my online teacher training, you have access to the videos that are part of the training. So the training covers anatomy, pranayama, meditation, all the yoga postures. I mean, everything that your typical YTT 200-hour program would have, but it's in the form of videos that you can watch on your phone or on your laptop. It's very accessible and convenient. There's homework that goes with each video in our manual. And then where it really shines and goes a step farther is that you get on a live call with me. We have usually anywhere between 2 and 3 live calls a week. And we go over all the material together in person. You're also assigned into a Jetta group, which is a small study group that you also connect with during those calls to do group work online. So it's highly interactive. There's nothing else out there. Like if you look or Google like online teacher training, it's all just like watch videos, answer some online quizzes, and like you're certified. It's very a one-dimensional experience with the screen, or maybe there's like a chat room or something. This is so different. I mean, I know like the name, the pets, the kids of like every single person in my training, because we are live online together on these live calls through Zoom, sometimes 3 times a week for 90 minutes. So it's really not for people who want to slack and like just get a easy yoga certification. That's not who this is for. This is for people who want the most comprehensive yoga education. And I think because it's online, I'm able to offer so much more material than I would be able to in person. For example, I have huge modules on myofascial release, which is one of my huge passions, studying the fascia, which is the interconnective tissue in the body. We have guest experts like Tom Myers, who's the world's authority on fascia, as part of the training. Big modules on Ayurveda, like yours.
That I teach.
Yeah, you teach. And so much content. And the other thing that I really love about it is it in an in-person training, and there's great benefits to training in person too. So people really need to figure out what fits them and their lifestyle. But online, you can rewind. You have access to the content forever. You still have the group accountability piece. So it's like we release the videos slowly. So it's not like you just get access to 200 hours of content, right? We're going week by week through a syllabus with me, and you can ask questions along the way. And then with in-person trainings, often just because of the nature of like a guest expert, like you maybe needing to come in, or someone like Tom Myers needing to fly in, it's very common that you'll do like all your anatomy with an anatomist person in like one weekend of the training.
Mhm.
Very intense, just because that's when that person can be there and show up. One of the things that was the most fun for me in putting together this program was that because everything's taped and we don't have that limitation, putting together the syllabus became this amazing, like creative dance where I was like, well, what if we studied anatomy, like this section of anatomy, and paired it with this section of pranayama, breathing techniques. And that completely relates to book 1 of the Yoga Sutras. And we studied that together in a week around a theme, right? That made sense. And then we throw in the yoga postures and we look at the physical asana practice as related to the anatomy that we're studying just this week, like the shoulder girdle, for example. And so it's a really holistic way to learn, because I know for me, one of the things I didn't love about my training was like cramming in 40 hours of anatomy in like one weekend, right? And then cramming in like all the postures like in one other section. Like it's able to be blended in a way that I think is really unique and provides like a 3-dimensional understanding of the material, if that makes sense.
Totally, yes. And I think it sounds perfect for so many people who live in areas that they're not really resonating with any yoga teachers, or maybe they are nurses and work a night shift and have just odd hours. And it sounds like the perfect opportunity for that. So what if you live out of the country? Do you have different like time zones and stuff?
Yeah, we have a lot of people out of the country. We've had people take the training, I think, well, in Uplifted, I know we have members from over 60 or 70 countries, which blow my mind. But with yoga teacher training, that is something people always ask. They're like, well, what if I can't make it to the live calls? Because we actually
Right.
require for you to be live a certain number of times in order to graduate. I think it's once a week. So it's intense. And then you just watch the replay if you're not live. What we do is at the beginning of training, we have sort of a survey that we send to everyone with, like here are like the 20 live call times we're thinking about. And we literally narrow it down so that everyone who has signed up can for sure be live at one of the times. And we've always made it work. We've had people in Japan, Australia. Usually what it looks like is there's a week night, a week morning, and a weekend call. So that really enables people from Europe to be able to participate in either the morning call, because for them it will be evening, or on the weekend. So luckily, knock on wood, so far we've always made it work and it hasn't been an issue. And people really bond. And I love in person. I mean, I want to get people together in person. So as part of YTT, I always offer in-person weekends or training modules. Or last year I even brought a bunch of people to YouTube with me in New York, which was so awesome. And we filmed even more material for the training, like hands-on adjustments and myofascial release adjustments and cool stuff. So there is the opportunity for people who can and want to come together and do their final practicum, which is them teaching in front of me and their peers in person. But if you are unable to do that, you can send in a video. So I like to tell people, it's not like I don't want to hang out with you in person. I'm just very sensitive to the fact that most people who are doing this training might have small children, might, again, be in the military or live very far away. But for the New York training, we had people come in from Germany. I mean,
Wow.
and the group is so bonded. That's the thing. When I did my yoga teacher training, one of my biggest regrets is because I was so busy and almost, was like sort of dropping out and delaying the training, I missed the opportunity to really connect with my peers.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like I wish I had had time to like get tea and dinner, and those were my people. And in the end, it didn't end up mattering so much because I moved across the country not that long after. But it always really saddens me that I didn't have the time to forge deep friendships with the people I did my YTT with. And it's why we've built the jetas and the study groups and the community live aspect so into the online training. And people who've done past years online trainings, like they go on vacation together, they like visit when they're in Europe. Like it's very cool. Like people are super connected.
That's so amazing. And yeah, it's so true, because sometimes you do trainings and then like life gets in the way and you're like, oh, I should have paid more attention. But the fact that you can rewatch it. And I know for my Ayurveda program, Eat Right for Your Mind Body Type, so many people, they might take a few months off and come back, and just having it there, it like takes off so much pressure of just needing to memorize everything.
100%. I mean, it's so nice to just know that you have access to the material. So even if you end up not teaching for 4 years, like I did after my training, it's like you still have that material and you can come back to it and rewatch it and sort of refresh your memory.
Yeah, that alone is incredible. So if people do this teacher training, are they a certified yoga teacher? What is it certified by? Do you need to be certified? Like, how does that whole world even work?
I'm really glad you asked that, because there's a lot of confusion around certification in yoga globally.
Mm-hmm.
So the reality, bottom line of what people need to remember, because I'm also a massage therapist specializing in myofascial release, and I like to use massage as a counterpoint, right? So massage is sanctioned, governed by state and local governments, right? So if you want to be a massage therapist, you have to go to a school, get accredited, and then you have to have a little business license, pass an exam, and it's different state to state, and I think it's even different county to county, but the government regulates massage just like they regulate chiropractors or nurses or trying to think of some other professions,
right?
Occupational therapists, right? With things like hypnotherapy, yoga, tai chi,
Ayurveda.
Yeah, I'd love to hear what Ayurveda has. It's not regulated at the state or local level. So what emerged is this nonprofit organization called Yoga Alliance. And Yoga Alliance is wonderful, but I really encourage people to look at them for what they are, which is an online registry that you pay to be a part of. So similar to maybe there's professional organizations like this in Ayurveda too, but it's like you pay a membership fee and then you're listed on their website. And what you're really paying for is the ability to use RYT, registered yoga teacher, as a trademark. So you're actually in infraction of trademark laws if you call yourself RYT without paying Yoga Alliance. That's what you're paying Yoga Alliance for. I think a lot of people have this impression that Yoga Alliance is like making sure everyone's a good yoga teacher or ensuring that all their schools are good yoga schools. The reality is it's an honor system, right? You pay a fee, you say your course includes certain things, you send them a syllabus. I was shocked because when I registered my in-person training with Yoga Alliance, I thought they were going to want to see like my manual. And I mean, I was ready to like show them like all my beautiful work. And really, it's just like you upload a syllabus and pay a fee. And same thing if you want to register as a student, you pay a yearly fee. Now, I think Yoga Alliance is great because they keep the government out of yoga for now, because who knows what that would look like. And they really help support pro-yoga legislation throughout the US. So that's why I do pay for the school and now myself to be a member, but I didn't for years and years. And I taught at all the aforementioned places I mentioned, Equinox, Pinterest, Google, every studio, without like registering with Yoga Alliance. So the bottom line is that that's what they're about. They want trainings to be in person. So if you do a training with me in person, a full in-person training, it's Yoga Alliance approved. If you do what's called distance learning, even though we're live on the live calls, Yoga Alliance still doesn't see that as what they call contact hours. Now, they're in communication with schools and other schools who want to do more of a hybrid online approach, and they want to add in more distance learning to be part of the program. So I think that's going to change, especially as technology takes over. But right now, if you want to make sure that you can register and use that RYT trademark, you need to do an in-person training, mine or someone else's. If you don't really care, then I'd say just do an online training, because in the online training, I also offer so much business advice and social media skills. And I mean, these are the things that are really going to help you get a job and launch your business, whether you want to teach online or in person in the studio sphere. So, and the other thing to know is that, you know, Yoga Alliance does sanction what they call this distance learning or non-contact hours for continuing education. So one thing I offer is what's called my bridge program. That's for people who are already yoga teachers, so already did an RYT 200, and they can basically take my whole online course with all the interaction and everything at a huge discount. And that qualifies for Yoga Alliance continuing education for certain modules and specialties in the training. So for continuing education, they love it. It's just for the RYT 200, you'd have to have in-person contact hours with me to be able to also register with Yoga Alliance. But again, I like to share that some people think they won't be able to get a job, or, they have this worry that they won't be able to get a job if they don't have the RYT stamp. I mean, what you really want to spend your money on is great yoga insurance. And Yoga Alliance doesn't give you that. And I have a whole module in my training that shows you exactly how and where to get yoga insurance with our certificate from the training. So
I love that. And I just want to speak about the parallels between like health coaching. Like being a health coach is not something that the government really sanctions. It's sort of like Institute of Integrative Nutrition created it, and now there's so many other programs, but it's technically a registered dietitian, which is like the governmental person to, tell you what to eat. But unfortunately, they're funded by these huge food industries that tell you to, have meat, have dairy, have this, have that. So as me, anyone else who's a health coach, we are basically like those yoga teachers without the RYT. It's like our own thing that we're doing. And now it's become, I think, bigger than RDs, and people are trusting them more because it's not governmental. It's not funded by anything else. So yeah, I totally see how there's these two different worlds. And I think this new world is going to really emerge more and more. I think with IIN, it's like the world's biggest nutrition program right now. So I think that's going to happen with yoga next.
Yeah, I mean, people want this information. People want the convenience of online. And ultimately, I think people really want the business skills that, the traditional RYT 200 courses. I mean, I think they only allot very few hours for being able to study business and how to really do brand building and all the social media and technical skills. So I really want my students to walk away empowered with how to get insurance and where, which I do, and how to think of themselves as entrepreneurs, because that's the reality. I'm sure it's the same in health coaching. Like people think, oh, I'm going to get this degree or register with some trade institution, and then I'll be legitimate and clients will just knock down my door, or like 100 studios will just beg me to teach them. And it's sort of this rude awakening where it's like, actually, no, you become an entrepreneur when you embark in this field. And as an entrepreneur, even back before I had my school or before anything, I mean, I looked at all my bills and expenses, and Yoga Alliance never was something that seemed worth paying for. When I was, starting out and figuring everything out, I just never needed to. And now that I'm in a different position, of course, I'm happy to support them. As I said, I think they do great work in the community, and who knows what would happen if we didn't have Yoga Alliance. So I like that they support pro-yoga legislation. But I think both of our industries are really on the cusp of big change.
Totally. And you have a special gift that you're offering to all of the listeners. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Yes, and you do too.
Yes.
So this is going to be fun to reveal to folks.
Our little reveal, yeah.
I know. So Sahara and I were so excited because I know there are so many people who do my yoga teacher training or my bridge program that are nutritionists or health coaches, or are starting their own business in this field. And yoga is such a great add-on, especially with all the myofascial release and business stuff that I have in the course that we want.
And I'm the guest teacher.
And she's an amazing guest teacher in the course. Exactly. So yeah, I'm extending $100 off either the yoga teacher training or the bridge, which is for people who are already, have done a yoga teacher training 200. We ask to see your certificate just to make sure that you've done a 200-hour training, but then you do get to take the course for I think it's less than 50% off. So it's just great if you weren't totally happy with your first yoga teacher training, or you just want to take your practice deeper, or have access to this content online, or feel like this would be a really fun experience. You should do it. And you can get the continuing education credit with YA if that's something that matters to you. So for bridge or for the full yoga teacher training to 100, we are doing $100 off tuition for Sahara listeners. And
Yeah.
Sahara, what are you throwing in for these folks?
Yes, and for everyone that signs up for that, I'm offering my Eat Right for Your Mind Body Type program absolutely free as a gift, because I know how powerful Ayurveda and yoga are together. And I love how Brett is all about teaching, not just about Ayurveda, but if you watch her videos on YouTube, which I think is the best place to start, just see her yoga style, but she includes the chakras. She's so knowledgeable about all Vedic things. So I wanted to include this. This is a 12-week program that dives really, really into Ayurveda and the food and things like that. So you can integrate that into your yoga practice and teach other people how to heal their bodies holistically, like both somatically through the body and also through nutrition. So it's going to be an amazing pair.
I know. And what's also exciting is because I only run yoga teacher training 2 to 3 times a year, right now it's just 2 times a year. People are often bummed because they like want to sign up and do it right away. But because we do it live together, it can't happen that way, right? We all start at the same date. So depending when you're listening to this, it might be a couple weeks or a couple months before training starts, but you could do Sahara's training in the interim and get really geared up for what's coming. So I think that's also something that's really cool about what you're offering.
Yes. So for people who want that, I'm going to post the link. If you're listening on iTunes or SoundCloud, it's going to be right in the info section. It's also going to be on my website. When you click on the podcast, you're going to see it on the show notes there. So you can click on that link. Or if you forget about the link, lose the link, just mention that Sahara mentioned you. Put Sahara as is there a Sahara promo code?
Yeah, I think we made the promo code Sahara. So
Perfect.
They should just put that in. How it works is they put a deposit. So it'll take $100 off their deposit when they enter that coupon code if they decide to sign up.
Perfect. And you have payment plans too as well, right?
Yes, teacher training is expensive.
Yeah.
So, and the bridge less so, but yes, I offer no interest, no fee payment plans.
Amazing.
Because the whole point is accessibility and that people get to do this from the comfort of home and have this knowledge. So we have 9-month, 6-month, 4-month payment plans, which different ones may be available when you sign up. And then you get an extra discount. Usually we're running something where it's like you get an extra discount if you just choose to pay in full. So there's a lot of options to make it work for you. And you can always email me or anyone on my team if you guys have questions about the training.
Perfect. So you'll get $100 off the deposit. You'll get my program, which is $285 for free. So that's $385 you're going to save. And the online teacher training is a lot less expensive than in person. You'll see on the website, I think it's like $1,000 less than the ones I've seen in person. So it's definitely a huge steal, and you're able to access the material later on, which I think that alone is worth the money. So yay. Well, thank you so much for being on Highest Self Podcast. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with listeners?
No, I would just encourage them to bring what seems like diverging parts of their personality together to make something really unique, go out there and take charge and really pursue whatever sets their heart on fire, because really I'm someone who thought I could never make a living teaching yoga. And I know so many people feel that way. Like I could never make a living as a massage therapist or as a health coach or, doing what I love, really helping people. And I used to believe that, and I am living proof that you can, and it's possible. So yes, I would love it for people to practice with me online. And again, I have tons of podcasts, just like Sahara has tons of great podcasts. So stay in touch. I'd love to see you in one of my communities or on YouTube somewhere. Brett Larkin Yoga. It's easy to find.
Perfect. So brettlarkin.com or brettlarkinyoga.com?
brettlarkin.com. It'll take you right to my website. And, if you just type Brett Larkin and Y into YouTube, you'll find me. It'll autocomplete. Yeah.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for sharing your journey, sharing your wisdom, and inspiring so many other people to follow their truths.